What's up, guys? It's me, Gearaholic, here doing another review on today's awesome Spyderco Ambitious. This Ambitious is mine. I've had it for 3 years, and it's had 3 years of long, hard love, especially in my pocket and going on adventures and different things. It was my first experience with the Spyderco 3 years ago was this knife. I got it for as a Christmas present. And it was one of those moments where you open it up and you're like, oh my gosh, the best Christmas present I've ever gotten, and it really is. I mean, it really has stuck with me through those years. It's not like one of those things where you get a knife and you're like, oh, this is really cool, and then it kind of slips into the drawer and you kind of forget about it, and then it's just kind of one of those things that you wanted it because everybody else had it. This is one of those. These are one of those knives that I kept it and I used it so much, so often, that I didn't buy another knife for quite a long time because this knife was such a great one and it was such a workhorse of a knife. I really like the Ambitious series, or this Ambitious style knife, because it's short. It functions really, really well, and it obviously has other brothers such as the Tenacious, I think it's the Tenacious, the Resilience, and the Persistence, or something like that. I think there's other knives, which is fine, and that works. If you're into other size knives, that's great, and they may work for you. I wanted a smaller version of the knife, of the value knife that worked for me and functioned in the environment that I was working in and engaged in at the time. I'm one of those kind of guys that when I take a knife out and I have to use it in public, I don't want to take out a super aggressive large knife that has tactical colors and is all like tacked out, because I don't want to freak people out, to cut like a string off my shirt, or to like open up a package. If I'm going to open up a knife, I want to open up something that looks clean, as elegant, as a gentlemanly, and it doesn't look like I'm going to go out and shank somebody or hold up like a liquor store. Like, I want something that just looks good, it's clean, and people actually stop and say, wow, that's a really nice knife. Where did you get it? What kind of knife is it? What's its name, or whatever. I don't know. That doesn't really ever happen. But, that's kind of one of those things you need to think about. And that's one of these, this knife was one of those knives where I didn't feel guilty about pulling this out in public and using it, because I knew it wasn't going to scare anybody all away, because it's such a small, delicate, leaf-like knife. It really hides in the pocket well, and, you don't really notice it. And it's just one of those things. So anyways, I'll kind of give you guys some specs on it. The overall length is 5.8 inches on the knife. It does weigh 3 ounces. It's a heavy 3 ounces. It is 3 millimeters thick blade with a nice full flat ground blade that goes all the way to the edge, and then tapers off, and then it has a secondary bevel kind of right there, right at the very end. I'll kind of show you guys, which is fine. It works, and it makes it easier for sharpening. It is nice because it does save on some weight, and Spyderco is smart enough where they knew that with as much steel as they were putting into this knife, they knew to actually skeletonize the entire length of the stainless steel liners that are actually in this knife, which do help. It does help save a lot of room. Let me see. Sorry. Yeah. So you can kind of see in there, you kind of see the stainless steel liners poking out. Sorry, I didn't mean to blind you guys, but it's nice. It's nice to know that they have stainless steel liners in them, so this is a bomb-proof knife. It does have a very solid lockup. It's pretty much like a tank. I've seen a lot of guys online where they do the spine whacking test, and they're like, oh, the Ambitious failed, or whatever knife, it failed. I don't know why you'd ever need to spine whack your knife, for any reason other than the fact that you just want to spine whack your knife to see how long it's going to take till it fails. But I don't ever feel like the spine whack test would fail on this knife. And I refuse to do that test because I think it's dumb. So in my opinion, I feel like this knife could not fail on you in any real way, other than if you were abusing the knife or taking it beyond its capabilities and limitations. Obviously, every knife has a limit, and then it breaks. So with this knife, I wouldn't deploy it into the role of you should just go out and baton down a tree with it and make sharp spears. I would say this functions as a very nice knife to carry in your pocket to do everyday tasks with, or maybe piggybacking on it as a secondary knife for your primary knife. You could use this. It functions very well in that role. Um, I think that I think one of the things that well, I know I have a friend of mine. He's got this exact same knife, and one of his big sticks is how much it weighs. 3 ounces. Well, like I was talking before, it has a skeletonized liners, and I do kind of feel like this is a little bit thick for a knife of this size. These skeletonized liners are a little bit thick. They could have made those just the tiniest bit thinner, and it would have saved a little bit of weight on the actual knife. The blade is perfect. I don't think they should have taken the blade any thinner or any further than it really is. And I like the thickness of it. I just do feel like it is a little bit wide for that size. I think they could have narrowed that down just the smallest a bit, and that would have made the contours of the handle just a little bit smaller. Maybe that would have been fine. And on top of that, if you look at how much, if you're looking at how much blade you're actually getting for your knife, there's still like I don't know, a little bit there, like maybe even a quarter of an inch that you could have pushed that blade out to and made it a little bit longer, and would have given you maybe, instead of, what is it, the actual cutting length is 2.25, you could have pushed that out to 2.5 inches easily. So those little improvements, making it just a little, giving more blade for your money, would have been nice. The actual blade itself is made out of 8CR13 MOV. That's fine. It works for me. I haven't had any problems with it. It sharpens really easy, and it does wear down really, really quickly, and you are constantly having to resharpen it, or at least in my experience, you constantly have to resharpen it. That's fine with me. The blade, it works, and it does the job that you need it to do, especially with the everyday task of cutting boxes or rope or whatever that you're going to need to do. It does have some resistance to rust, but it's not the greatest in the rusting capabilities. It will probably rust up on you in high moisture content or a high moisture environment. So you just have to be really careful and make sure that you oil the blade as frequently as possible, to maximize your, rust prevention. Some guys that bothers. To me, I feel like they could have pushed the quality control on the steel and made it out of something a little bit better, like 12C27 Sandvik steel. You could have made that, and I understand that's like, that's a more of a Scandinavian steel, or produced not by China, whereas the 8CR13 MOV is produced by China, and they're this whole line of steel, the CR13s or the 8CR13s or 6, whatever, those kind of knives. I mean, these are cheap mass production stainless steels, and it's really not. They're not the greatest stainless steels, but they work, and I think they work especially for the value knife, which is what this is, And I can't really complain about the blade, because I still do like the blade. I just think that if I had to choose, and if I could have a custom made knife, it would most likely have that steel in there, or something better like VG10 or S30V or whatever. I would choose something better. But Spyderco does an excellent job of putting decent steels in their knives, and great steels in their knives. Like the Delica series has that, the VG10. I can't argue with that. That's a great steel. Sharpens hard and it stays sharp, and it's a fantastic knife for a fantastic roll. It's just that it costs so much. It costs so much, and putting a different steel on this knife would increase the value of it. So you can't really, if you're arguing against the value of the knife, it's just going to make the knife more expensive if you're going to put a higher quality steel in there. But if you're talking about cheapness, you could put that that 12C27 Sandvik steel in there and still keep the price relatively low. I mean, if Mora can do it, you can do it. And Mora's not losing money. They're making money on their knives. So I'm just saying, we're just talking potatoes and potatoes here, and tomatoes. So that's just my viewpoint of it. It doesn't make me hate this knife any less. And in honesty, I still really love this knife, and I would still, if I lost it or broke it, and I needed to replace it, or if I wanted to replace it, I would definitely buy another one. Another thing that I do like about this knife is the actual clip. I like the clip because it's stiff and it's sturdy and it's strong. The only thing I don't like about the clip is how it doesn't come up and it doesn't have a deep carry pocket clip. That's the one thing I don't like about this knife, but it is nice because it is reversible, and you can do it on all four corners. I think it's great. And the construction, the pillar construction of the entire blade, using Torx bit or Torx screws, is an excellent choice, and really holds that knife together. It makes it super easy to clean and take apart. And I'm mechanically inclined, so if it ever gets dirty or gets not corrosion, but dirt and debris in here, it's easy to either blow out or go in and take it apart and clean it, and that makes it super easy to put back together. And I've had to do that a couple of times with this knife, getting sand and dirt and debris inside the knife, and not being able to get it out with oils or compressed air, and being, mechanically inclined to take it all apart. Makes it easier. It deploys really fast. I haven't had any problems with deployment with this knife since I've gotten it. And really, I just feel like whatever bearings or bushings they put in this knife, they work really good. Whatever is it. I don't know if it's whatever it's the whatever discs they put in here that make it work a lot better. I can't think of the name of those, but I know them. I just can't think of them now because it doesn't really matter. One quick thing, just real quick. Going back, the jimping on it is great. Up here on the thumb ramp, it's great. I just wish that they continued the jimping off of the actual, lock, up and right here, like right where your finger goes. Like, why couldn't they continue that jimping right there, so that way you can have a super positive grip on the actual knife and use it in a really good functional roll, and not have to worry about your fingers slipping up and onto the blade. Because that blade is right there. It's right next to, ends right where my fingers stop on the actual blade. It's like, whoa, so close. So I'm frequently very careful about. I usually have like a lanyard on my knives, and I usually slip my pinky or something into the knife, into the actual cords. That way I don't slice off all my fingers when I'm using it. And that's another thing I guess they could also improve on, is the G10 on it is fantastic. It just doesn't have a whole lot of grip. Why don't you just go ahead and spice that up, man? Throw like some aggressive Delica-like features on there, or even I hate even to bring this in, but the bird knife it's a $20 knife, value knife, and look at the aggressive texturing on the FRN handles. Put FRN handles on these. Make them aggressive. That's what I want. If I'm gonna, even if it costs a little bit more, which it shouldn't, because it's FRN. It's cheap. If you put it in your $20 knife, why can't you put it on your G10 models? And take away the G10 and put those FRN handles on there. This is just my opinion. I want more texture. I want more bite in there when I'm using this. If I'm using such a small blade, I need more bite. There's got to be more there. And it's not something that I hate or anything. It's just that I wish that more companies would be more aggressive about how it feels in the hand. And I mean, it does feel good and it does feel solid, like I'm not going to slip, but it would just be nice to have that extra grip, that extra padding, like on the Bird model, the Meadowlark 2. It's like I don't feel like this is going to slip out of my hand either way I pull it. And I don't really even put a lanyard on this knife when I use it. And this is ACR 13 MOV as well. Quality and quality. This is poor quality. I think I did a video on this one before. You can go check that one out and see this video on the Meadowlark and all the issues I had with this knife. And this is a production knife. It's the parent company, or the brother company to the big brother Spyderco. I had no problems with this as far as quality control. I've had no problems with any of my Spyderco knives, really, other than the bird knife. But it's like, this is a good knife. Little improvements would take this knife a little bit farther, and the knife is good how it is, and I'm not complaining against it. I just think there's little improvements that could be made that can make this knife a lot better. Um, and I'm not so mechanically inclined. I don't really want to. I don't want to make my own G10 handles and all that other stuff. Some people get really creative with their creating, when they with their modifications on their knives, and I just want to buy the knife and it be function right there, right then. Um, but it's a good knife. And sorry to blab on about the review. You guys can now end the review. I'll end the review now. I don't really have anything else to say about this knife. It is a good knife, and I think that everybody should at least take a look at this knife. If you're looking for a nice, good value knife, you should take a look at this knife. It is an excellent knife. It does ride well in the pocket. It is a little bit heavy, but it's not so heavy that it's going to kill you, and especially for an everyday carry knife. So you guys, thank you so much for watching the review. And if you guys have any more questions or anything, leave a comment at the bottom of the screen, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. I have more gear reviews coming, so keep watching. All right, guys, be safe out there and don't cut yourselves.